5 times in 7 days. Warehouses burning from St. Petersburg to Crimea. Ukraine has found a new target, and it's not a missile site. It's Russia's biggest online retailer. $1 billion in damage, 10% of their logistics, ash. How do you fight a war when your economy is the battlefield? A major fire broke out in St. Petersburg as Ukraine struck Wildberries' logistics hub for the 5th time in a week. On July 24th, logistics centers belonging to Russia's largest online retailer, Wildberries, came under attack in St. Petersburg, Tver, and Russian-occupied Crimea during an overnight Ukrainian drone assault. Russian Telegram media channels reported Wildberries' logistics centers in St. Petersburg were among the facilities struck by Ukrainian drones, triggering a massive fire at one facility. Residents shared videos on social media documenting thick black smoke rising over part of the city, with the strike reported on the Utkin Zavod logistics park, which houses the Wildberries facility immediately south of the city in the village of Novosaratovka. Independent Russian telegram channel Astra reported that another strike was reported at a separate Wildberries facility in the Shushery district of St. Petersburg. Large plumes of black smoke were seen at the facility. St. Petersburg, located 100 kilometers from Ukraine's border and the hometown of Russian President Vladimir Putin, has rarely been targeted by Ukrainian attacks throughout Russia's full-scale invasion due to the concentration of Russian air defenses around the historically significant city. However, in recent months, Ukrainian drone advancements have been able to more effectively penetrate air defenses, striking various targets in heavily fortified cities, including Moscow and St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg Governor Alexander Beglov confirmed the drone attack on the city, writing on Telegram that the attack targeted unspecified civilian infrastructure facilities on Moskovskoye Highway.
The strike hit civilian infrastructure facilities on Moskovskoye Highway. Efforts to address the aftermath are currently underway.
Hours later, Leningrad Oblast Governor Alexander Drozdenko confirmed the attack on the Wildberries facility in Novosaratovka, claiming that 3 people were injured in the attack. Wildberries' press service reported that the company's logistics centers in Shushery and Utkin Zavod in St. Petersburg have been temporarily suspended following the attack. Authorities further confirmed amid the attack that around 50 flights have been delayed at St. Petersburg's Pulkovo airport. As Ukrainian attacks on Russian infrastructure continue to intensify, Wildberries, frequently compared to e-commerce giant Amazon, has sustained 5 days of Ukrainian attacks on the company's facilities over the past week. Earlier in the night, photos and videos posted to social media by Russian Telegram media channels purport to show a large fire emanating from a Wildberries facility in Simferopol. The warehouse complex serves as a major logistics hub for the Russian-occupied Crimean Peninsula, and published footage by residents purportedly showed the moment the drone struck the facility. Wildberries' press service later confirmed that one of its warehouses in Simferopol was struck, though the company did not immediately provide details on the extent of the damage or possible disruptions to operations. Later in the night, residents also reported a fire at a Wildberries logistics hub in the Russian city of Tver. Thick clouds of smoke were seen rising over the city following the reported strike. The extent of the damage caused by the attack was not immediately clear. Earlier on July 23rd, Ukrainian forces reportedly also struck a Wildberries facility in Voronezh, while on July 22nd, 2 Wildberries warehouses in southern Russia, one in Krasnodar and one in Stavropol Krai, erupted in flames after being hit by Ukrainian drones. The recent attacks have inflicted high economic costs, with media analysts estimating at least 100 billion rubles, approximately $1.2 billion, in damage. Open-source data analysis by Russia's Kommersant Daily showed that the recent attacks have damaged approximately 10 to 14% of Wildberries' logistics capacity, equivalent to 552,000 square meters, or 5.9 million square feet of warehouse space. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied Ukraine's claim that Wildberries handles military supplies. Meanwhile, as Wildberries facilities burned, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed on July 24th that its air defense systems downed 571 Ukrainian drones over various regions of the country. The war has reached one of the most unexpected targets inside Russia. Not an airbase, not an oil refinery, not military headquarters. This time, Ukraine has gone after Russia's biggest online retailer, Wildberries, setting some of its largest warehouse complexes ablaze in a series of long-range drone strikes. The attacks have triggered billions of dollars in damage, left thousands of businesses in crisis, and opened a new front in Kyiv's campaign to weaken the Russian economy. Over the past several days, Ukrainian drones struck major Wildberries logistics centers in Krasnodar and Stavropol Krai. This was not a one-off strike. Ukraine first struck Wildberries on July 18th, hitting the company's major logistics hubs in Elektrostal near Moscow and Kotovsk in the Tambov region. 4 days later, on July 22nd, it launched a second wave of attacks, targeting 2 more distribution centers in Krasnodar and Nevenomysk in Stavropol Krai. In less than a week, 4 of Wildberries' biggest logistics hubs had come under Ukrainian attack. According to various estimates, the combined damage now stands between 150 and 230 billion rubles, with tens of billions more needed to clear the wreckage and rebuild the facilities. Speaking about the attacks on the warehouses, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kyiv had struck 2 logistics facilities used by Russia to supply components for drone production and navigation equipment.
Today, targets were hit near Moscow as well as in the Tambov region. These were Russian logistics facilities, including warehouses supplying equipment for the war effort, navigation systems, components used in drone production, and other supplies for the Russian military.
However, the Kremlin rejected the claims and denied accusations from Ukraine that Wildberries handles military supplies used for Russia's war effort.
It is not true. The Kyiv regime continues to strike civilian targets. That is the terrorist nature of the Kyiv regime. As for the company you mentioned, the situation is indeed difficult because of the losses suffered both by the company itself and by small and medium-sized businesses. The government is dealing with this issue.
Wildberries is no ordinary retailer. It dominates more than 40% of Russia's online retail market and, together with Ozon, controls almost 70% of the sector. Often compared with Amazon, its influence inside Russia is arguably even greater. Annual turnover exceeds 4 trillion rubles, representing more than 10% of the country's domestic trade. The impact has been immediate. Russian social media is filled with desperate appeals from small and medium-sized business owners whose merchandise was destroyed inside the warehouses. Some reportedly lost everything. One entrepreneur is said to have taken his own life after inventory purchased with a 12 million ruble loan was reduced to ashes. Adding to the anger, Wildberries had already amended its terms of service earlier this month, removing compensation for losses caused by wartime circumstances, meaning affected sellers will receive nothing. At first glance, the warehouses appear to be civilian targets. Wildberries is best known for selling clothing, household goods, toys, and electronics. But Ukraine argues there is another side to the story. The marketplace openly sells dual-use equipment, including DJI drones, tactical gear, and drone payload release systems that can be adapted for military use. Kyiv says the platform has become part of the wider supply chain supporting Russia's expanding drone capabilities. Ukraine also points to a broader reality. Moreover, much of the military-related merchandise is hidden within seemingly civilian categories, such as auto parts or electronics. For example, one can openly purchase drone bomb release mechanisms or payload retention systems, equipment designed to carry and release explosives from drones. Wildberries sells them without restriction, complete with technical specifications. Since launching its full-scale invasion in 2022, Russia has repeatedly struck Ukrainian logistics centers, postal terminals, warehouses, supermarkets, shopping centers, railway infrastructure, and power facilities. Millions of tons of humanitarian supplies, medicines, food, and commercial goods have been destroyed, while entire cities have been reduced to ruins. Kyiv says its strategy has now evolved. Rather than limiting long-range strikes to oil depots and military facilities, Ukraine is increasingly targeting the economic infrastructure that keeps Russia's wartime economy functioning. Wildberries is not only a retail giant, but also one of Russia's biggest taxpayers, generating hundreds of millions of dollars each year for the state budget. The company also plays a central role in Russia's parallel import network, helping sanctioned Western goods continue reaching Russian consumers through third countries despite international restrictions. Disrupting that network could make sanctions far more painful for ordinary Russians while increasing pressure on the Kremlin. As Ukraine expands its deep strike campaign, the battlefield is no longer confined to trenches and front lines. It is increasingly reaching the economic heart of Russia itself, where every warehouse destroyed carries consequences far beyond the flames.